Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. The Ravens just finished day 20 of training camp. The last practice open to fans, so things are going to start to get a little bit more private as time goes on. We're getting closer and closer to the regular season, so we won't have as much information about what's going on from practice to practice. We've been on like a 20-day grind, recapping every training camp episode. Shorter, lighter practice today. They got a preseason game on Saturday. There was a lot of guys out today. Mark Andrews was out, Tyler Linderbaum, Russell Gage, Tez Walker, Rasheen Ali, Chris Board, Josh Ross, Arthur Millette, obviously, Christian Matthew, Kyle Hamilton, Sanusi Kane. I think this is a mixture of some vet days for guys like Kyle Hamilton, who also just had a recent injury scare, and then Mark Andrews, who was also just in the car wreck. So I think that those are kind of safe vet days. There's no new injuries or anything there. And then guys like Rasheen Ali, Sanusi Kane, they've been banged up since the last preseason game. So not sure if they're even going to play in this preseason game, but they haven't been practicing. The main news from today is Nate Wiggins made his return. He was a full participant, so no concerns there. That's great to hear. Now, I don't expect him to play in the preseason again at all, really, but definitely not this week since he just came back. I think that there's no chance he plays in this preseason game, and I would say there's a very high chance we don't see Nate Wiggins again until week 1. And speaking of week 1, it's getting close. Nate Wiggins is probably going to match up on Xavier Worthy at least a few times throughout the game. Speed on speed. The Chiefs are probably going to be without Hollywood Brown, and then we'll see if Rashee Rice gets suspended, but Xavier Worthy is going to be one of the main targets there outside of Travis Kelce, obviously. And Nate Wiggins is going to play an important role this year. I don't know if he'll be playing quite as much as Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens, probably like a little bit below that, but he's going to play a lot. You never really know how much a guy is going to play and how important of a role he's going to play right after he gets drafted. You hope that your first round corner or first round pick in general plays a lot and makes an immediate impact, but it's not guaranteed. But all the positive notes we've been hearing about Nate Wiggins throughout the entire offseason, and then for him to go out in week 1 of the preseason and put on a show like that, he's going to play a lot this year. He's going to play an important role for the Ravens for years to come. Very thankful he avoided a serious injury. I'm just excited to see him get out there, excited to see this whole team get out there, especially the secondary, man. It's so deep. I think they're going to be able to kind of do whatever they want to create whatever matchups that they like. You know, Nate Wiggins is probably going to be mainly outside as Stevens is, as Jalen Armour-Davis, but then Marlon Humphrey can move anywhere. He can play outside if needed. He can jump inside if needed. We got Kyle Hamilton inside. We got our Darius Washington inside, Pepe Williams. There's just such a variety of guys. TJ Tampa, who we haven't even really seen that much of yet, but he might earn a role. Hopefully we do get to see some of him in the preseason this Saturday. I couldn't be more confident in this cornerback room and this Ravens secondary as a whole. When you add the safeties in there too, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, our Darius Washington, and then all the corners we have, it's kind of ridiculous, man. This is the most stacked secondary we've had. That's going to take so much pressure off the pass rush. Speaking of Kansas City that we're playing in a few weeks, Andy Reid said that his starters are going to play a full half this weekend, which is kind of crazy. The Ravens are going a complete opposite direction and have been for the last few years. It's obviously extremely risky to play your starters, so I totally feel more comfortable not playing the starters, but there is this little competitive edge that I feel like the Chiefs are going to gain by having a whole half with their starters out there in a live football game that the Ravens aren't going to have until week 1 is here. There may be a slow start. There may be some rust. There may be some things that they still got to work through chemistry-wise. Not that the Chiefs aren't going to have that as well. They definitely will. And I think if you really weigh it out, it's probably just always safer not to play the starters. But Kansas City, let's say they get through the preseason completely healthy and they've played their starters for a few games, you can't say that they don't have a little bit of an edge from a in the flow, muscle memory, chemistry standpoint. Not that the Ravens can't overcome this in week one. I'm just saying it is an interesting strategy. I just believe the more that you play, the better you are for it. So I think that there's a slight edge there, and I think that that might be the strategy that the Chiefs are trying to go with. Honestly, play the guys, get them a little bit more prepared than the opponent can possibly be when they're not out there in the preseason at all. Like I said earlier, lighter practice today, no pads, wasn't a bunch of major events or anything, but Tylan Wallace made some plays. Qadir Ismail made some plays in the pass game. He's an interesting guy to watch in the preseason too. I think he's definitely on that roster bubble. I don't know where he would fit. They're going to have to sacrifice a tight end or back end wide receiver there, but he's fighting for a chance to at least be on some NFL team. So he's a guy to definitely watch throughout the preseason. I think Tylan Wallace is a lock to make the team. The other question mark there is Tez Walker. He's going to make the team because he's a 4th round pick and he's got a ton of talent, but he hasn't been really making a ton of plays throughout camp. He hasn't been shining in that first preseason game, and now he's out of practice today. So interested to see if he could step up and make some plays and kind of make some noise. I don't know. At this point, I feel like he might have kind of a quiet year one, but that's just the offseason talking. If he can develop any type of role in the regular season, I feel like he has the talent to produce and make some plays for us. But as of right now, it's kind of gearing up. This season seems like Tez Walker might be a bit quieter than I originally thought when we drafted him, but we'll see. My opinion's always subject to change. He could go out there and ball in this next preseason game, and then we're all talking about how good Tez Walker is and how much of a key role he can play for us this year. But it does seem like he may be a bit limited. He hasn't been consistently running with the ones throughout training camp, and I just feel like he might be pushed down on the depth chart a little bit. I think a guy like Tylan Wallace might even get a bit more clock than Tez Walker. Justin Tucker spoke to the media today and was kind of addressing this new kickoff rule. Said he's going to have 8 to 9 different kicks prepared. And I think that that's just a testament to his work ethic and his creativity and just his greatness. Not that every kicker in the NFL is not trying to do different things, but the fact that Justin Tucker is embracing this rule as if like his career depends on it, like I need to be so prepared that I have 8 to 9 different styles for whatever situation, whatever type of kick we need.
It's definitely been an adjustment. I've kind of always said that as a kicker, a lot of times people compare kicking a football to a golf swing. And the one caveat I would add is that I only use one club. I only use driver. A golfer's got to have, he's got to have a drive. He's got to have an approach shot. He's got to have like his bunker shots. He's got to be able to putt. He's got to have the ability to do all of those things. And for the most part, occasionally you have a specialty kick like a squib kick or an onside kick. But for the most part, it's one club. It's a driver. So now I am opening up the bag, and we've got a lot more clubs we have to have a lot more clubs to pick from. So it's not necessarily about taking anything off of the ball. It's about being deliberate with where I place the ball. So instead of smashing every single ball like as hard as I can, I just have to mentally lock in to the same degree, but place the ball with just that much more intention.
And this kickoff rule is going to change games a little bit. I hope you guys understand that. Like, the field position is going to be flipped drastically. If you kick it into the end zone, you now jump to the 30-yard line. That's not that bad a field position, Not that long ago, you were on the 20-yard line for a touchback. Now we've moved it all the way to the 30. And then if you return it, the odds of you breaking past the 30 or even taking it to the house are way higher than they were before. So you're definitely going to see more explosive kick returns, which is going to put more points on the board, which is going to flip field position to the other side of the field for a lot of teams. You're going to be starting 5-10 yards further than you would have every time you touch the ball, essentially. So I think that there's going to be drastic impact, and we might not really see it in the flow of the game, but when you look from a distance and look at it from a bigger lens, I think at the end of the year, you're going to be like, wow, look how many more points were scored because teams were in better field position more often, and there were X amount more kickoff returns for touchdowns. So I think that this is it's a pretty big change change to football overall. It's exciting. It's kind of weird, you know, like as a lifelong fan of the NFL, it's definitely weird to see the position and just the whole kickoff kind of play out. And if you've been playing Madden on the early access, you can experience the kickoff in the video game, which is just super weird. It honestly feels extremely unnatural, but that's just because it's new. It's kind of uncomfortable, you know. I'm not for it or against it. I think I need a bigger sample size to play out. Traditionally, it's definitely weird, so I'm kind of against it in that aspect to like keep football the same, you know, protect the beauty of the sport, the originality of the sport. But then I also understand the injury side. I understand not wanting to just have every team booted into the end zone. So now we're going to get a lot more kick returns. There's going to be more kick returns for touchdowns, so there's more points scored. There's a lot of benefits to it as well. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be exciting to say the least, and I'm pumped that the Ravens are fully dived into figuring out the best edge and strategy for this kickoff, and what better guy to lead the way than Justin Tucker, the greatest kicker of all time. But that's it for today, guys. No real practice tomorrow, and then we have the preseason game on Saturday, so excited to see the guys get out there again, especially the ones that are battling for a roster spot. But I appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.